Discover how a simple thank you email revealed an incredible 2M fraud, a life-changing journey. Jake sat at his kitchen table, the dim light casting long shadows on the children's drawings scattered about. He couldn't shake the excitement of the night before. Under the buzzing fluorescent lights of the local high school gymnasium, he had attended a fundraiser that felt almost electric, with laughter and applause ringing through the air like a vibrant chorus. Mr. Crowley, the generous philanthropist who everyone whispered about like a local legend, had made it happen. Families were fed, money was raised, and smiles were everywhere. Afterwards, Jake typed out a heartfelt thank you email, pouring his gratitude into every word, not realizing it would set into motion a chain reaction that would forever alter his life. As days passed, flickers of unease began to gnaw at Jake. At first, it was subtle. Lines in the budget didn't add up. A little bird in his ear kept chirping about playground money that seemed to vanish into thin air. The supportive whispers of his community praising Crowley turned to hushed defenses. "He's doing so much good for us," they said, hands clasped together in firm disbelief at any suggestion of wrongdoing. Every week brought a new barbecue in the backyard, laughter masking the brewing storm. Deep down, Jake felt the tug loyalty to his neighbors against the responsibility weighing heavily on his heart like an anchor. Then came the emails, tempests of unanswered questions composing an invisible web connecting various parts of the town's funding. Jake sat glued to his laptop, the glow illuminating lines on his furrowed brow. With each email he sent out, he sensed the shifting winds. Some stood beside him, arms crossed in agreement, while others strained to keep the peace, murmuring cautionary tales. He pressed on, driven by an innate sense of justice that screamed louder than the whispered fears for his family. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With each conversation he had, each person he questioned, the divide grew clearer. Sara noticed too. The weight he carried pressurized their evenings, pushing between them like an uninvited guest. Her laughter faded with the sunsets as she worried for their children's safety should the storm Jake was brewing escalate. "What if it comes back to haunt our family?" she whispered one night, shadows masking her concern. The flicker of fear in her eyes tightened Jake's chest, stirring a wild conflict within. And then it came the moment of truth. The confrontation with Crowley loomed ahead like an invisible storm cloud ready to break. In the middle of the town hall, with a crowd forming around them, Jake felt the suffocating tension in the air. He prepared to unveil the truth, the fraud amounting to millions echoing in his mind, juxtaposed against the pledge he'd made to stand for integrity. His heart raced. Faces in the crowd flickered between disbelief and fear. Could loyalty stand against the shackles of deception? As silence fell, Jake faced a pivotal crossroad. Would he step forward into the light and expose the truth, come what may? The answer danced like a flame in the night, ready to ignite or evaporate. Jake stood at the center of the town hall, a mix of dread and determination swirling in his gut. The air felt thick, heavy with unsaid words and unmeasured fear. He could sense the crowd's eyes, glistening with curiosity and concern. Whispers of his impending revelation rippled through the gathered onlookers like a wave crashing against the shore. The moment had arrived, and with it came a sharp realization. Courage was not the absence of fear, but the will to move forward despite it. He took a breath that tasted of stale tension and stepped closer to the podium. Flashes of his kids' faces filled his mind. Amy's curls bouncing as she laughed, Jamie's eager anticipation for the summer playground, all greased by Crowley's promised funds. It was hard to reconcile that joy with the darkness he was about to shine a light on. He had to do this for them, for the community, for the truth. "Mr. Crowley," he began, his voice steady despite the tremble in his hands. "I want to thank you for the work you've done, but it appears some of that work may be built on lies." The words hung in the air, raw and brave. Gasps floated through the audience. It felt like a curtain being drawn aside, exposing not just the facts he had uncovered, but the vulnerability of many who believed in Crowley's facade. Each word became a drumbeat in his heart, Would it resonate, cause a stir or backlash that would drown him out? Crowley's composed figure shifted, surprise washing over his features, quickly replaced by a mask of indignation. How dare you, Jake? After everything I've done for this town? The crowd turned restless like a sea caught in tension. Some shot Jake looks of disbelief, others regarded Crowley with newfound wariness. Lines blurred between right and wrong, and he could see them shift, unsure where to place their loyalty. It was maddening the way community loyalty sprouted into blind defense so quickly. Look around, Jake pleaded, gesturing to the audience. We vouch for a man who claims to give and yet hides money from our kids. Playground donations, home repairs, community support, it's all at stake. We deserve the truth. Padlocked mouths began to open. Small murmurs of agreement, caution, and concern. A wave of realization shifted among them. Some took bold steps forward, willing to stand with him. Others recoiled, fear etched deeply into their furrowed brows. Jake could only hope this was the spark that would ignite a movement for justice, not fear. His voice grew stronger with each heartbeat. Mr. Crowley, you may have fooled many of us, but your days of deception end here. As he concluded, sweat trickled down his back. There was no turning back now. But instead of applause, a heavy silence settled like a blanket. Jake's heart sank. Had he just lost everything? And as Jake scanned the crowd for support, one person, someone he didn't expect, stood up. Sara's brave gaze anchored him, flickering hope back into his heart. Would she be the catalyst for change? Could this be the moment they rallied, standing against the storm together? Before Jake could fully absorb it, a loud shout cut through the tense silence, reverberating through the room. What seemed like chaos suddenly took shape. Jake needs our support. Then the crowd erupted into a chorus of voices, enthusiasm against doubt emerging like dawn after a heavy night. As Jake stood there, invigorated by Sara's support, he questioned whether this was the beginning of a transformative journey. His resolve had lit the spark. What would it ignite next? The energy in the town hall surged. Voices bounced against the walls, a cacophony of support intermingled with skepticism. Jake felt the swell of the crowd lifting him, yet 1,000 thoughts raced through his mind. Was it enough? Could they really turn the tide against someone as powerful as Crowley? He squinted into the sea of faces, searching for signs of resolve, but also grappling with the reality of what lay ahead. Sara stood taller now, a beacon of strength amidst the storm of uncertainty. She raised her hand, and silence fell again as curiosity replaced the earlier defensiveness. Jake's right. We can't just accept what we've been told without questioning it. Her voice rang clear, its resonance cutting through the doubts that swirled in the room. Yeah. Someone shouted from the back, emboldened by Sara's words. We deserve to know where our money is going. The murmurs of discontent escalated into a swelling roar of agreement. This was an awakening. Crowley's face darkened as the tide turned against him. This is all just hearsay. You're being swayed by fear tactics. He shot back, his voice rising with anger. But even as he spoke, the cracks in his facade deepened. Jake took a step forward, feeling the weight of the moment heavy on his shoulders. If it's hearsay, then let us investigate. Let us find the truth together. Jake called out, emboldened by the crowd's energy. The words felt powerful, as though they could ripple outward beyond the halls and into the very fabric of their community. A few families began to rise from their seats, heads nodding in agreement. Jake's heart raced. Could it be? Had they really begun to challenge the status quo? The whispers turned into chants of support, powerful and unyielding. Truth. Justice. Together. The crowd echoed, creating a pulse that coursed through Jake, sending chills down his spine. It was electric, alive with possibility. But between all that hope and excitement, an unsettling feeling settled in Jake's gut. This wasn't just about Crowley's deceit. It was about something much larger. What if they unraveled a thread that led to deeper corruption? Would they be prepared for the repercussions? Before he could voice his concerns, Crowley's voice cut through again, laced with desperation. You think this will help your families? Just wait until you see what you're asking for. Then let us see it. One of his longtime friends yelled from the back. Let us see what you've really done. A ripple of fear washed through Jake. Was there more at stake here than just truth? He caught a glimpse of his kids' faces, their laughter echoing in his mind. Were they prepared for the fallout? Could the community's strength withstand the inevitable pushback to come? But then he glanced back at Sara, the fire in her eyes igniting a spark of bravery within him. We'll face it together, he thought, steeling himself against the uncertainty ahead. As the crowd's momentum swelled, Jake stood grounded, unwavering. In that moment he stepped even closer to the podium, reinforcing the commitment he'd made that night. Let us demand answers. For Amy. For Jamie. For all of us. With that they roared back to life, a chorus of tenacity that reverberated through the hall. But deep down Jake sensed a storm approaching. A confrontation loomed just beyond the horizon, one that could either bury them or elevate them. As they rallied, he couldn't help but wonder what forces they might unleash in uncovering the truth. Would they be ready for what lay in wait, or would they find themselves caught in something far larger than themselves? Tomorrow would be pivotal, and as the chants filled the room, one thought pierced through the silence. What would it cost? The following day dawned with a heavy sky, the air thick with anticipation. Jake rose early, unable to shake the sense of urgency that had gripped him since the town hall meeting. The sun barely peeked through the clouds, a gray blanket casting a muted light over the world outside. He stared at the coffee brewing in the pot, each drip filling his mind with thoughts of the night before. "Dad!" One of his kids called from the other room. "What's for breakfast?" His heart swelled. They didn't yet understand the stakes involved in what he had embarked on. He wanted to protect them, to shield them from the turbulence that awaited. He padded into the kitchen where Amy and Jamie were already bickering over cereal choices. "How about pancakes?" Jake suggested, forcing a smile. As he flipped pancakes, he replayed the crowd's chants in his mind. It felt like a tidal wave of change had begun, yet the uncertainty clung to him like a damp fog. He wiped his brow, contemplating how revelations could sweep through their small town. Would they triumph, or would the backlash silence them? After breakfast, Jake knew he couldn't put it off any longer. He gathered his notes, determined to meet Sara and strategize their next steps. Together they had to draw a map through the chaos Crowley represented. He wanted to uncover the truth but also strengthen the community's resolve amidst the fear. Driving through the town, he noted the change in the atmosphere. People moved a little differently today. There was a lightness in their strides and a twinkle in their eyes. He spotted neighbors nodding at one another. Perhaps they sensed this collective movement, an undercurrent of hope shifting in the air. It was that very hope that propelled Jake forward. When he arrived at the cafe where he had agreed to meet Sara, she was already there, her determination palpable. "I talked to a few people in town," she said, her eyes bright. "They're scared but want to help. We can't let Crowley intimidate us. We stand together." The determination in her voice felt like a lifeline, and Jake nodded. "Let us get to work then. People need to know the truth. We need to pinpoint where the money is going," he replied as they dug deeper into the town's budget reports. Piecing together numbers and transactions, each revelation sent their hearts racing. What began as simple discrepancies soon spiraled into something much larger. The more they uncovered, the more they realized this wasn't just about the misuse of funds. It was about trust. The very bedrock of their community was at stake. Suddenly, Sara's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, her expression shifting from concentration to surprise. "It's the local journalist," she said. "He wants to meet with us to talk about what we've found." An electric jolt of excitement surged through Jake. This could be the platform they needed, a chance to share their journey and rally more support. But alongside that excitement lurked anxiety. Was the community ready for what would inevitably follow? Or had they opened a Pandora's box that could not be closed? "What if we can't control the narrative?" Jake asked, a weight in his voice. Sara placed her hand on his shoulder. "That's the risk we take. But it's a chance we have to embrace. For our families, for everything." As they left the cafe, a storm loomed not just in the sky, but in the challenges ahead. They moved forward, ready to face what was coming. Yet the question echoed in Jake's mind. Just how far would Crowley go to silence them? And would they be willing to risk everything to unearth the truth? That morning, as Jake walked alongside Sara toward the meeting place, the tension between them was palpable. He felt the weight of what was to come. Each step echoed his growing fear. What if this moment turned the tide against them? What if Crowley unleashed chaos? The journalist, a wiry man named Malcolm, greeted them with an eagerness that made Jake uneasy. "Thank you both for meeting me. I've heard whispers about the irregularities in town hall," he said, his voice low but urgent. "But I need facts, evidence. Can you show me what you have?" Jake glanced at Sara, who nodded with resolve. They spread their notes and documents across the small cafe table, their handwriting a testament to countless hours spent uncovering the truth. As Jake explained the discrepancies in the budget, he could feel Malcolm's skepticism. The journalist leaned in closer, urgency mixed with a hint of disbelief. "You realize that what you're proposing could be explosive, right? The town is going to react hard," Malcolm cautioned, glancing around as if Crowley might be lurking just outside. "Are you ready for the storm this will unleash?" Sara squared her shoulders. "We've been living in a storm for too long," she replied fiercely. "We need to stand up. We can't let fear win." Malcolm took in her words, nodding slowly, and for a moment, Jake felt a surge of gratitude toward her. In that moment the tension eased a bit. They were in this together, willing to face whatever storm lay ahead. As they shared their findings, Jake pointed to a particular line item in the budget that showed inflated expenses for a public project. "This amount is nearly double what it should be. Where's the extra money going?" he asked, anger mixing with disbelief. Malcolm jotted down notes, his eyes narrowing in thought. "Can you get me more evidence? Something concrete that I can publish? An interview with others who might be affected?" His enthusiasm grew. A potential story was taking shape. The hours slipped by in a blur of numbers and conversations, but as they prepared to wrap up, Malcolm's phone buzzed insistently. He glanced down, his smile fading as he read a message. "I need to take this," he said, standing up hurriedly. "I'll dig deeper and reach out soon." Left in the wake of his urgency, Jake and Sara exchanged worried glances. They were elated to have a potential ally. Yet the pulse of uncertainty thumped louder. "What now?" Jake asked, his voice hushed. "We keep gathering information. We have to approach this strategically," Sara said firmly. "We can't just publish everything at once. We need to build a narrative that will wake the town up without ripping it apart." "But what if Crowley finds out? What if he tries to discredit us before we're ready?" Jake replied, anxiety threading through his words. Sara took a deep breath, steadying him with her gaze. "Then we adapt. That's what people do when facing a storm, Jake. They don't back down." The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows down the street as they exited the cafe. With every step, Jake felt both dread and determination entwined, a vine of hope wrapped around the stone of uncertainty. Just as they reached their cars, a familiar figure loomed in the distance. Unexpectedly, Jake recognized Crowley, his silhouette cutting through the fading light like a dark omen. Jake's heart raced. "What's he doing here?" he murmured, dread twining with urgency. "Stay calm," Sara whispered, her expression shifting to one of resolution. "Let us see what he wants." But in this moment, Jake knew that whatever happened next would change everything one way or another. Would they stand their ground against the storm brewing on the horizon, or was this the moment everything began to unravel? The chill in the air thickened as Crowley approached, his gait confident and threatening. Jake's instincts screamed at him to run, but he stood rooted, watching the man's every step as though it were magnified. "Jake, Sara," Crowley called, a wide smile stretching across his face. "What a pleasant surprise." "It's not a surprise to us," Sara said pointedly, drawing a breath that steadied her resolve. "What do you want, Crowley?" "Oh, just checking on the locals," Crowley said, sidestepping their wariness like it was nothing more than a casual alleyway. "You know how it is in politics. Always keeping tabs. I heard whispers about a little cafe meeting today, and naturally I had to drop by." Jake could feel the tension gnawing at his patience. "We're not doing anything illegal," he shot back, masking the tremor in his voice with bravado. "Who said anything about legality?" Crowley chuckled, leaning in closer, his gaze an icy fixation on Sara. "It's about perception, you see. Something I learned in my career." He smiled, a chilling reminder of the threat he posed. "And I'm afraid you're both drawing quite a bit of attention. Frenzied little project, huh?" Sara crossed her arms, defiance bubbling beneath the surface. "If you think we're going to back down, you're mistaken. The town deserves to know the truth." Crowley's smile widened, but his eyes hardened. "Oh, I wouldn't dream of stopping you. Just remember, Every truth has its cost. Do you think the people will follow you? Or do they prefer the comfort of silence? Jake felt a cold sweat run down his back. Was Crowley trying to intimidate them into submission? Or was there something deeper at play? We're not afraid of you, he asserted, but the unease in his voice betrayed his fear. Crowley shrugged. Fear isn't always a bad thing. Keep that in mind as you venture into unknown waters. With that, he tipped an invisible hat and turned, disappearing into the shadows. Did he just? Jake's breath hitched, disbelief mingling with anger. What was that about? Sara punched her fist into her palm, her face a mixture of fury and determination. He's trying to scare us. That means he knows we're onto something. We do have to be smart about this, but we can't let him intimidate us. We need to keep going. Jake nodded, feeling an adrenaline surge course through him. He may think he's won this round, but he's wrong. We can't quit now. Not after everything we've uncovered. As the tension eased, they climbed into their cars, hearts still racing as they faced the reality of what lay ahead. They needed to act quickly, to gather the last pieces of evidence. Jake's thoughts drifted to the potential consequences, both for them and the town. What if Crowley tried to undermine their efforts? What if the truth they sought came at a cost too high? Sara broke through his spiraling thoughts, her focus sharp. Meet me tonight at the library. I have an idea on how we can get more leverage. Will do, Jake replied, his uncertainty wilting under the rejuvenating spark of resolve. But we must be careful. Crowley may not be finished with us. As he pulled away, headlights illuminating the deserted streets, a heavy feeling settled in Jake's chest. Each darkened corner of the town felt alive with danger, and although they had each other, he feared the shadows that loomed around them. What hidden truths waited to be discovered? What would happen when the storm finally hit? With every turn of the wheel, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were racing against time itself. As the library came into view, he couldn't help but think, were they walking into Crowley's trap? Or were they finally positioned to uncover the truth that would shatter everything? The library loomed ahead, its lights spilling warmth onto the cold pavement. Jake parked and wiped his palms on his jeans, his heart racing with excitement and dread. Would Sara have clarity, or would they end up further entangled in Crowley's web? As he stepped inside, he was greeted by the familiar scent of old books and polished wood, a sanctuary that had offered him solace during countless nights of study. But tonight it felt more like a battleground. Dimly lit tables sprawled out like trenches, each corner holding secrets of its own. Sara was already there, her figure bent over a laptop, fingers flying across the keyboard. She didn't look up as he approached, but the determination radiating from her felt almost palpable. Hey, Jake whispered, trying to keep the tension from invading his voice. Sara looked up, her eyes sparkling with a mix of excitement and concern. I think I found something. A connection that Crowley didn't want us to see. She gestured for him to sit, her expression shifting to one of seriousness. It's not just about the cafe meetings. It goes deeper, a financial trail leading back to the council. Jake leaned closer, heart pounding. What do you mean? Are you saying Crowley is? Yeah. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. It looks like he's been siphoning funds through various community projects. The very projects he claims to support. It's all smoke and mirrors. He let her words sink in, a mixture of horror and exhilaration bubbling within him. If we can prove this, when, Jake? Not if. She slammed her palm down, shaking off her nerves. We have to be specific. Focus on uncovering every account linked to that cafe project. If we expose that, we can blow the whole corruption wide open. But Crowley will go down fighting. He won't let this just slip away. Jake gazed around the library, sensing they were not as alone as they thought. The shadows felt thicker tonight, and he wondered if Crowley was looming over them in some unseen way. Then we find allies, Sara replied, her voice fierce. We need to gather more evidence. Take this information to Angela at the newspaper. She might be able to help. Angela, she has always been wary of Crowley, Jake replied, remembering their previous conversations, the caution written on her face whenever Crowley was mentioned. Exactly. She is a journalist. She knows how to handle him. Sara's eyes glinted with determination. Together we can expose him. Just then a sound echoed through the library, a thud that jolted them from their planning. Jake's heart raced as he turned toward the sound, watching the shadows shift at the entrance. Had Crowley sent someone to watch them? Did you hear that? He whispered, eyes wide. Sara nodded, urgency clear on her face. We need to move. If they're onto us, we can't let Crowley find out what we're up to. The air was thick with unspoken fears as they gathered their belongings, adrenaline surging through Jake's veins. With every step towards the exit, he felt the weight of Crowley's threat. Tonight isn't over. This is just the beginning, right? Right. We'll take back what he stole, Sara affirmed, her voice steady, though uncertainty lingered in her eyes. As they stepped outside, the door creaked ominously behind them. The night was darker than before, shadows creeping with a mind of their own, the wind howling like a warning. Jake felt the dread creep back in. They were on the precipice of something monumental, but it was clear. The battle had just begun. Would their quest for the truth lead them to victory? Or would Crowley's grip tighten even further? The weight of their task pressed heavily on them as they navigated the dimly lit streets, each corner a reminder that danger lurked just behind them. What unexpected alliances might they forge next? And how far would they have to go to protect what they were uncovering? Jake and Sara hurried down the winding streets, their breath visible in the night air. The click of their shoes on the pavement felt like a countdown. They had a plan, or so they thought. But every shadow seemed menacing. Every parked car could harbor a watcher. Jake glanced at Sara, her determination still strong, but he feared for her. Could they really take on someone as powerful as Crowley? Do you think we should check if we're being followed? He asked, trying to keep his voice low. Sara shook her head, a determined glint in her eye. No. We can't act paranoid. If we show fear, Crowley will smell it. Right. She was right. But the knot in Jake's stomach tightened. They had to get to Angela's and fast. They ducked around a corner, finding a small side street that led to the newspaper office. It was a shortcut that he hoped would save them time as they turned onto the quieter road. The sound of approaching footsteps echoed behind them. Jake's heart thudded. He exchanged a quick glance with Sara, who seemed to understand the silent alarm going off in his head. We should hurry, he urged. They quickened their pace, but the footsteps grew louder, closer. Just as they reached a well-lit section, Jake stopped, pointing at a figure emerging from the shadows. It was a man in a dark jacket, his face obscured by a hood. Jake felt the familiar pangs of fear grip him. Keep walking, Sara whispered, but Jake hesitated. Was Crowley's man finally here? Maybe it's just a passerby. He wanted to convince himself, but the gut feeling screamed otherwise. The man kept moving, a casual saunter but too calculated to be innocent. Faster! Sara urged again, tugging at his arm. They broke into a run, heart racing, fear clawing at their throats. They didn't stop until they reached the steps of Angela's office. Sara pushed through the door, flinging it open. The cozy office, decorated in burnt oranges and browns, felt like a refuge. Angela looked up from her desk, surprise widening her eyes as she took in their disheveled appearance. What happened? She asked, concern knitting her brows. Crowley, we need your help, Sara gasped, leaning heavily against the desk. Angela stood, her interest piqued. What's going on? Jake stepped forward, the weight of everything crashing over him. We found something, money funneled through projects Crowley controls. He's behind so much of the corruption. Angela's expression shifted, clarity igniting in her eyes. You're serious? Dead serious, Sara confirmed, catching her breath. But we need proof. The evidence is scattered, but it's there. Jake felt a flicker of hope. They had come to a journalist, someone who could broadcast the truth, who could help them turn the tides. But a question gnawed at his thoughts. What if Crowley finds us first? What if he stops us before we can expose him? Angela crossed her arms, contemplating. Crowley has people everywhere. But if you're right, he'll fight back. I need to get more information from you without being too conspicuous. As they began to explain everything, Jake's mind raced. They were treading dangerous waters. For every step they took toward justice, they risked escalating Crowley's wrath further. Just then a car pulled up outside, the headlights cutting through the glass windows like a knife. Fears clamored in Jake's mind. Was it Crowley already? Stay low, Angela hissed, ducking behind the desk. Sara grabbed Jake's arm, pulling him close. They held their breath, hearts pounding, as the front door to the office squeaked open. The moment of truth arrived. Who might walk in next? Would it be friend or foe? The door creaked open slowly, revealing a tall silhouette framed against the harsh glow of the streetlights outside. Jake's heart raced as he clenched Sarah's arm tighter. The dread that flooded the room was palpable. He tried to catch a glimpse of the person entering, but the figure stepped fully into the office, and he released a breath he didn't know he was holding. "Hey, Angela," the newcomer said, casually tossing his coat aside. It was Mark, one of Angela's colleagues. The tension that had wrapped around Jake's chest began to loosen, though the threat still loomed heavy. "What are you doing here?" Angela snapped, her voice low but urgent. "You can't be here." "Not now." Mark's brows furrowed in confusion. "I thought I could help." "Help how?" Jake interjected, his protective instincts kicking in. "We're dealing with a dangerous situation." Sara shot Jake a look, her expression both cautionary and understanding. "We can use all the help we can get," she said softly. "If he knows something." Angela sighed, glancing at Mark. "All right, but you need to understand this isn't just a routine story. It's bigger than anything else we've tackled. Crowley is not someone you want to cross." Mark swallowed hard, glancing at the two of them. "I've had some contacts in the past weeks. There's something brewing here, and I think it might be related to Crowley." "What do you mean?" Jake asked, his pulse picking up again. "I overheard some conversations, saw a few dubious transactions while digging into city council records." "Something doesn't add up," Mark explained, his eyes darting between them. "But if you're saying he's been funneling money, it makes sense." As Jake and Sara began to fill Mark in on the research they'd done, the weight of their knowledge pressed down heavily on the group. Each detail revealed felt like a step deeper into a dark ocean of corruption. A chill clung to the air, thick with worry. They were no longer just observers. They were active participants in this dangerous game. Suddenly, there was a loud crash outside, the unmistakable sound of glass shattering. The three of them froze, eyes wide with horror. "What the hell was that?" Mark whispered. "Stay quiet," Angela hissed, already moving toward the window, peering cautiously. "Jake, help me with this," she asked, motioning for him to come closer. They each took a position to see outside without being exposed. A pale light illuminated a scene of chaos, broken bottles scattered on the sidewalk. A small group of men shouting in anger. They were being reckless, but Jake's gut told him they weren't just acting out. "They're looking for someone," Sara murmured, her voice trembling not out of fear, but with the strength of someone who already had too much to lose. Jake's eyes darted away from the window back to the group. "We need to move. If Crowley's men are out there, we can't stick around." Angela nodded, urgency flashing across her face. "To the back exit. Now." They quietly maneuvered through the office, adrenaline fueling their hurried actions. They reached the back door, but just as Angela turned the knob, they heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps approaching. "Too late," Jake whispered, feeling panic well up inside him. Outside, the men were closer now, the muffled sounds of conversation turning into the snap of commands. "We have to get out or find a way to hide," Sara said, her voice low and urgent. Just then Angela pulled Jake and Sara close. "This may be our only chance. Are you ready? We might have to fight our way out." Jake felt the stakes rising around him, his heartbeat sinking with the danger they faced. "I'm ready. But what's our plan?" he breathed, searching for courage in Sara's eyes. The door creaked as they prepared to step into an unpredictable night filled with shadowy threats and an uncertain fate. Would they find salvation or plunge deeper into Crowley's ruthless world? "Let us go," Angela urged, steeling them for whatever lay ahead. What awaited them beyond that door? Would they expose the truth or seal their fate forever? The air crackled with tension as Jake, Sara, and Angela stepped into the cool night. The stars barely shone above, hidden by the looming threat of a storm. They pressed forward, moving quietly through the back alley before breaking into a sprint, when they heard yelling behind them. "Get them!" The voice rang out, angry and determined. Jake's heart thundered in his chest as adrenaline surged through him. They dove down the alley, glancing back to see figures pursuing them, shadows gaining fast. "Left!" Angela shouted, quick on her feet. They veered around a corner, breathless but refusing to let fear stomp out their resolve. They ducked behind a stack of pallets, pressing their backs against the rough wood as footsteps thundered closer. "What now?" Jake whispered, the edges of panic curling around his heart. Just breathe, Sara urged softly, keeping her eyes on Angela. What's the plan? Angela took a breath, her eyes scanning their surroundings. We need to find a place to regroup. Call for help. I know a safer spot. Without waiting for questions, she led them further into the maze of alleys, the distant shouts of their pursuers fading as they maneuvered deeper into the night. Just a few streets over, they reached a side entrance to the older part of the library, one Angela knew well. They slipped inside, locking the door behind them and drawing breath as they leaned against the heavy wood. Hearts racing in unison. This is crazy, Jake said, still shaking. I can't believe Crowley would send people after us. It means we're onto something big, Sara said, her voice fiery. He's scared. Angela nodded, pulling out her phone while glancing at the door. Let us alert anyone who can help us. This isn't just about Crowley anymore. It's about the whole community that's been misled. We need to let them know what's really going on. With shaky hands, Jake watched as Angela typed a quick message to a few trusted colleagues and friends, rallying them for support. I'll send it to Angela's contacts. If they're willing to stand with us, we can confront Crowley and demand answers. Sara crossed her arms, her resolve firm. We need to stand united. If we do this right, we won't just fight for ourselves but for everyone he's fooled. They spent the next hour mapping their next steps, poring over notes and fine-tuning their evidence. The stillness in the library was comfort and chaos all at once, a sanctuary shielded from danger, but filled with an electrical tension that whispered of the storm brewing outside. Finally, just as they finished their last adjustments, they received replies, friends willing to back them up, community members who understood the risk, and parents who stood for the truth without faltering. Jake felt a swell of hope rise. He wasn't alone in this fight. They were ready to step into the light. This is it, Angela said, her eyes glimmering. Tomorrow we go public. We gather everyone in the town square, show them the evidence, the proof of Crowley's fraud, and confront him directly. The thought struck Jake like a lightning bolt. The town had been so blind, wrapped in a comforting lie. But now they had clarity, and with that came courage. Dawn broke over the small town, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. It was a new beginning. Jake, Sara, and Angela stood on the steps of the town square. A crowd gathering around them, families, friends, and even some whom they never expected to stand there. It was hope manifested. Today, Jake announced, heart-pounding, marks a stand for truth. No more deception. No more fear. We're here to uncover the truth behind Mr. Crowley's misrepresentations. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, but as Jake held up the documents, the discomfort faded, replaced by murmurs of agreement. Sara stepped forward. We need to unite for our community, for our children. Crowley has used us, lied to us. It's time to reclaim what is rightfully ours. Together. The crowd echoed, voices lifting like a powerful wave. As the energy swelled, Jake spotted Crowley approaching amid the crowd, his face a mask of anger. But this time it was different. The community behind him stood tall, shielded by their collective willingness to embrace the truth. Jake, Sara, Crowley shouted, his voice cutting through the gathered murmurs. You think this is going to end well for you? Enough. Jake shouted back, his voice steady, emboldened by the people standing beside him. We deserve the truth, and we will fight for it. Your reign of deceit ends here. The crowd drew closer together, their collective force too strong to weaponize by fear or intimidation. Crowley faltered, the weight of the truth pressing down heavier than ever. And just when Jake feared it could splinter again, he felt a hand on his shoulder, Angela standing resolute beside him, Sara on the other side, unwavering. Something shifted in the air. The tides had turned. I will gather every piece of evidence against you, Crowley, Angela called out, her voice strong and unwavering. This isn't just about you anymore. It's about every family you've betrayed. As the waves of support surged, Jake felt a relief wash over him. They had come together, weathering the storm side by side. They had opened Pandora's box, igniting a light that would guide them through any darkness that followed. Tomorrow justice would prevail. Before they left the square, Jake turned to the crowd and shouted, "Let us rise together as a community. We won't be silenced, we will take back our town. Who's with us?" And with that, cheers erupted, melding into a powerful anthem of unity that echoed through the streets. Jake knew this was the dawn of something significant. While the road ahead was uncertain, They were ready to fight for each other and for the truth. As smiles lit up faces and families embraced one another, he felt tears of joy prick at the corners of his eyes. This was their moment, their time. And they were only just getting started. Now is the moment. Don't let this inspiration fade away. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep the momentum flowing. Comment below to share your reactions and feelings about this transformative ending. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share this news. True fans understand how important it is to support the channel through these actions.